Hey, this is Raise Radio, the holistic wisdom podcast for awakening women that weaves food and nutrition, traditional wisdom, spiritual expansion, so that you can feel your best, body, mind, and soul. I'm your host, Raina Lutz. Let's dig in. We all have those embarrassing moments that keep us awake at night. Here's one of them. I actually turned it into a blog and now a podcast because the potent lesson in this story is gold. So this was many, many years ago. I was driving into a class that I was teaching, and I wasn't properly prepared for that day. I was tired and I hadn't had a good week of food prep. I hadn't been planning that, for that window of my life. I really wasn't planning food very well. And my days were too full. And now I understand better, what my needs are and what my day needs to look like so that I can best take care of myself. But at that time, I was really stressed. I was really overworked and I was totally burning out. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. So because self-care was not on my plate that month, that's how we landed to the story happening in real time. So this one day I left late. So I was in a hurry to get in to teach the class. And while I was on the road, I got stuck behind one of those left lane drivers. So there's the right lane, keep right except to pass. Then there's the left lane. And I'm stuck between the left lane driver and someone else. You know how this is. So this person is driving they should be in the right lane, right? Because they're not passing. They're not doing anything. They're just driving, but they're making other people stuck because of their choice. So being in the Okanagan, I'm used to this. Every summer our population doubles due to tourists. I've been dealing with this my whole life. But my blood sugars that day said no. I angrily tailgated the driver and I was so frustrated. By the time she finally pulled over, I was annoyed and flew past her when I finally could. We actually locked eyes as I went by. When I pulled up to the school, guess who pulled up beside me just a few short minutes after? Yep, the same car I had angrily tailgated and locked eyes with. That day was one of my nutrition students. Oh my goodness, it was so awkward. I had to step up, confront her, and apologize for my poor behavior. Once we got into the building, I went to the bathroom, I composed myself, I looked in the mirror, and I said, nope, you are not going to deal with this that way. You are going to deal with this the right way. And so I went and talked to her, apologized, explained myself, and we actually became good friends after that. I was left with a really insecure feeling that even though I had done the right thing by stepping up to talk to her and communicate, what I was really annoyed about at the end of the day was myself for the fact that happened at all. I was annoyed at myself for not being prepared, for not leaving on time, for not eating right, for not taking care of my body, and for taking out my rushed life and anger on her. I realized that my blood sugar imbalance wasn't her problem. My wellness issues weren't her problem. And that week, I made it one of my goals to learn to be a better driver. Now, not to brag, but I already had a pretty amazing driving record. I learned how to drive in Osoyoos and then Vancouver. When you learn how to drive in Vancouver, you really have to learn to be aware. However, I wanted to continue this practice to get better and better, to be a conscious driver and to be more patient and plan better. So I love traveling. I'm on the road a lot and I'm still keeping the flow. I'm always watching, peeking around, seeing who's around me, what's happening, watching for pedestrians, observing and noticing. And I really notice when other people are driving unsafely. So I decided to work on improving my driving without attachment, just noticing and observing myself and others. Without attachment means I'm not judging other drivers, no matter how terrible the mistake was. Because at the end of the day, you don't know where people were at that day. Maybe they just lost someone. Maybe they couldn't afford to eat that day, or maybe their kid's getting sick in the back seat. Who knows? But removing the judgment keeps me focused and without anger, but it still keeps me safe. So when I'm driving, now you can usually catch me singing, dancing with a little smile. It's very meditative. I'm very calm. I'm more relaxed and prepared, and I feel good. So what the hell does all this have to do with food? Well, the same way that lesson imprinted me deeply and I knew that something needed to change, we often have to hit our wits' end before we make a nutrition change or a change in our wellness and our life. And that's great because once you're tired of the diets, frustration, restriction, details counting, worried, constant comparison, judgment, once you're tired of the stress, you can begin to notice and observe yourself without attachment, without judgment. You can notice and observe your patterns, thoughts, habits, and behavior. And your attachment to others' advice or the latest trend or diet or who's eating what, just notice. Notice your obsession, notice your worry, notice it all. Thanks for listening today. Hey, thanks for making time to listen to Raise Radio today. If you head on over to lutesnutrition.ca, you can grab my 3-email guide of food and healing to make stress and overwhelm a thing in the past. This guide is going to give you the exact tools you need to end the mind games and obsess about food, to learn to pick food and stop agonizing whether or not you're doing it right, and to end the nightly cravings so you can stop feeling out of control. That's on lutesnutrition.ca. Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate you.